Yeah, that's fine. I just didn't know. I just kind of thought about it.
We'll call this meeting to order. I want to welcome everybody to our regularly scheduled DSS board meeting. We'll ask everybody in attendance, please silence their mobile devices. And I'll call on our new county manager to lead us in the invocation.
Father, thank you so much for your
I'll call on Commissioner Harding to lead us in the pledge.
United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with justice for all.
If the board will take a moment to make themselves familiar with the ethics, awareness, and conflict of interest reminder. If there are any conflicts of interest, please use this opportunity to note them now. Hearing none, I'll move on to item 6, additions or changes to the agenda. Are there any additions or changes to the agenda tonight? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion that we adopt the agenda as it's presented.
So moved.
Got a motion? All those in favor, vote by usual sign. Motion carries. Now I'll entertain a motion that we approve the minutes from the April 4th meeting. Have a motion.
And a second.
All those in favor, vote by usual sign. With that said, we'll invite our no longer new, the 7-month mark director to give us her address.
Thank you, Brandon. So hopefully it's kind of short and sweet tonight, just giving you some more updates of things that's been going on within the agency. Once again, we continue to do our multidisciplinary team meetings. I wasn't here in April, so I just want to let you know we did have one April 12th, and our next one is the 15th of May. Sean and I have also met with Russ Kirbyfield with the Mitchell County Health Department to bring him up to date on our community child protection team. And we are also beginning the child fatality team that's kind of been on the back burner for quite some time with the health department, and we're getting that rolled out again. But also I just wanted to check with everyone to make sure everyone got a copy of our community child protection team report that was emailed out. Taylor emailed out. I sent it to you. Okay. Okay. But we emailed that out. It's just an update that we send to the state. What was it? The community child protection team. And this is, we submit it annually. And it was just kind of letting everyone know of what we did during these meetings.
What is that? Will you elaborate on what that plan does?
It's really just, it has like the required members that should be there, and we are at times staffing cases, looking at gaps, like things that we could do differently with these cases, needs within the community. For example, like safe sleep, that kind of thing, looking to see if there's any needs there to educate the community around that. But it's one of the state's mandated.
Is it yearly? Is that what it is?
No, we meet well, Sean has been, when I wasn't there, he was meeting monthly.
I mean, the plan update, is it a yearly update?
It's yearly,
Okay.
yes. Mm-hmm.
And I guess I know when we met and talked, the chair needs to sign off on that.
Yeah.
But doesn't, to your knowledge, Doesn't require a motion
No,
or,
it's just for your
resolution.
information only, to let you know that these meetings are occurring and what we're doing. We'll definitely follow up on that, to make sure everybody has a copy. Okay. So a part of that committee, one of the positions can actually be a commissioner. So if anyone would like to be a part of that committee, I know you guys just have lots of free time, right? But if you'd like to join us, we would love to have you. And we've actually changed that to quarterly, so it's not monthly anymore. So if you'd like to, please let me know. Normally, it's usually mornings. If you're interested, we'd love to have you. And we're actually getting ready to do a state training with it, so everyone on the team will be informed of what that, like a little stuff.
Let me know
Okay.
after you get your quarterly, you make time set up right.
Okay. Also, just to give you an update, I know I kind of got approval to be a part of the High Country United Way board, and I attended my first meeting for that. And one of the things that I'm also a part of the Mitchell County Emergency Food and Shelter Board, which is kind of like a subcommittee of that. And I shared this with Brandon, but just wanted to let you guys know that Mitchell County was awarded almost $17,000 for emergency food insecurity. And they have actually put out the bids for that. I think that closed on the 19th of April. So some of our like neighbors, feeding neighbors, those sorts, whoever put in a bid for that could possibly be granted those funds. So that was exciting for Mitchell County. Also, we're continuing to do the multiple meetings with VIA. There's a lot of discussion around, I know Brandon presented this before around the foster care waiver. A lot of changes with the state with that. And so we've been meeting, and we met with Cedar Heights, and the state continues to have lots of information on this and how it could impact us. I will be attending a 3-day event this week in Boone at the Directors Association, and there'll be a lot of discussion around that, as well as vendors. The provider vendors will be there. So I'll keep you updated with that and what we found out there. We also had our fiscal monitoring audit last week, and all went well. There were no findings. And also on May 26th, we have been invited to, and Sean has really been working hard on these efforts as far as our foster care, foster care recruitment. And one of the meetings that he has actually been asked to attend, and myself, is on May 26th. And it is with the Toe River Arts Council. Amelia Andrews has asked us to be a part of that and meet some potential foster parents, just to have that discussion going with that group of folks. So we're looking forward to that. We're also hosting an event on May 28th for our Foster Parent Appreciation Day. This will be we hope to be a pretty huge event with inflatables and picnic and that sort of thing to invite our foster parents and kids to be part of that.
We're gonna be at the DSS.
So it's May the 28th.
Yes.
What time?
We would love to have. Let's set a time for that, Sean.
I think we're looking at
In the afternoon.
Okay.
Inflatables. Bring
May the 20th to Saturday.
You would enjoy
You'd
that.
love it.
Yeah.
You got to ride them with?
Yeah.
So that's all as far as updates that I have, unless you guys have some questions for me.
any questions for the director?
Well, thank you. Keep up the good work.
Thank you. Mr. Block? How are you this evening?
Doing well. How you y'all? Glad to see it's spring. Just run through our numbers really quick, starting with APS, if that's all right. We had, for the month of April, we had 8 calls come in. 6 of those were screened in. At the end of the month, between what we were working from March and what we still have in April, we have 13 open cases right now in APS that's under some type of assessment or investigation. We're still serving just one assistant, special assistance in-home case, although we're trying to expand that. We have allotted, I believe, 2 other slots, so we're trying to identify 2 other individuals within our community that we can serve with that, but it's kind of a very unique requirement, so especially with the income. So we've got 13 payees. We're up to 11 guardianship clients. That's up from 9 from March, and we're looking at possibly having another one this week. So that's starting to really increase on us, as well as a couple of those that are still under the assessment of those 13. We're concerned about them and their welfare, and so there's a potential that we could end up with bringing some of those in under our guardianship. So we're looking at our guardianship actually potentially significantly increasing in the upcoming days.
So what was the reason for that? I'm sorry.
Just the increase in guardianships. Just I believe that we applied, we asked for one of those, and then 2 other ones came in as interim from the court. So the court's the one that makes the final decision on that. And then we have a couple that we're a little concerned about that we're monitoring and potentially come in once we have the assessment completed.
How's adding a position to APS working out for you?
So, yeah, so we have the new APS position is been filled. And right now he's just going through the training process and completing that. He's been going out in the field a lot. And so it's hands-on as well as web-based. But it's really going well, and we're happy to have him there and feel like he's gonna really add to the team with his knowledge and skill base. But he's coming in with the mental health background and things like that. Special assistants, adult home specialist, sorry. We have 3 open assessments that we're doing right now. And right now, there doesn't seem to be any concerns. We're just finishing those up. That's the APS. CPS numbers, really, we haven't had really no changes from last month. We've had no new kids come into custody. No cases closed for April. We still have 11 kids free for adoption. Of those 11, we have 3. There's a sibling group of 3 that's on the docket to be adopted in June. So that should be finalized. And then we have 1 that's currently in the home study. And then we have two cases that are still on appeal. So we're waiting on the decision on those appeals as well.
Sean, the siblings said of 3, are they getting adopted to a home they all 3 get to stay together?
Yes, they're all 3 in the same home.
Would that be true in the one under that, where you got 7 children? Or more children?
I'm not sure. Okay,
It's the status report.
So no, those 7 kids are all from a different cases. Another thing that kind of jumps out, if you look at the out-of-county placements, last month we had 18, then this month it's showing 22. That's kind of misleading to an extent, so just to kind of help explain that a little bit. We took a conflict case from a neighboring county, and those kids are from that county and placed in that county in a relative care setting. So when we took the case, technically those kids are outside of Mitchell County, so they're getting counted as outside. We also had 2 kids that were spent 2 days in a respite home in a neighboring county. And so technically they were out of county for 2 days, and so they get pulled into that. But technically, we have a status quo there. There's really no additional kids out of county. We have 3 families going through the licensing process. One of those have completed all their training, so we're just getting their licensing paperwork put together to send off to the state. So we're hoping maybe within the next 60 days to have another licensed home.
Are we still struggling to find foster homes or foster beds for our teenage population?
Yes, and generally speaking, we've had a couple of homes that have stepped up and helped us in a couple of situations, but they're not long-term placements, but they've stepped up and they've taken a couple of our kids right now that we've been able to maintain here. So our family, I can't ask more from our foster parents right now. They really stepped in and they've been helping, and we've had some foster families that's had to go on vacation that's been pre-planned for almost a year, and then they've got kids in their home, and so we've had to find placement, and other foster families have I can watch them for this day, I can do this, and so really pulling together as a team and being able to keep those kids without really displacing them way outside our area has been an awesome thing to see with our foster parents. But it's still a great need. We still need foster homes for our teens and sibling groups of 3 or more.
So is that our biggest areas of need?
That's our biggest area of need.
And that's not unique to us.
No, it's not. That's standard not only across North Carolina, but across the entire country.
I'm gonna ask a question. I don't mean to put you guys on the spot. It might be something Wendy you respond to or Sean you respond to. And I know in the past, this discussion has sort of come up a little bit. What would be your opinion or your thought process on having Mitchell County having a group home in Mitchell County? I know we probably wouldn't meet all the requirements as far as therapeutic and some of the other things, but for basic foster care. And has that been a discussion lately? Is it a positive thing? Is it a negative thing? Is it something that requires a lot more study?
I would say it would require a lot more study, and there has been a lot of discussion. And when you say recent, I wouldn't say in the last maybe 6 months, but however, over the last 2 years, I would say, I know that Brandon was looking at the possibility of putting something together. There's a lot of dynamics that goes into that. It's hard to manage. See, it's one of those things is in the funding issues as well, is because once you get into group home, the federal funding is there, it's not there any longer. So it's all state and county funding after 14 days. And so the funding becomes a challenge, as well as how many beds you're going to have, what age group are you going to target? Are you going to target just girls? Are you going to target boys? Are you going to target both boys and girls? And so there becomes a lot of dynamics involved with that. Is how do you maintain that cost effectively? It's much more expensive to put a kid in a group home, even if it's county, in a sense, quote unquote, county ran, than it is a regular traditional foster home. And so I feel like there's a need for something in our area. Could Mitchell County in and by itself support it? I would have some concerns about that. I've seen the proposal, and I kind of took a lot of look at it. It would be difficult, I think, for Mitchell County in and by itself to even, let's say, just a 5-bed home, to always have 5 kids in that bed, and then try to man it 24/7. And the expense of that, even if the beds are open and you're not pulling down any revenue.
Do you mind if I jump in, Sean?
Yeah,
So we talked about that, I guess, one afternoon about, 3 months ago, and even went as far as to call our community liaison through VIA, Dustin Burleson. VIA is doing some group homes in some of their other catchment areas. And we called Dustin and asked him about the possibility of doing one here. And I think that VIA would be supportive opening a home in this region or in this area with the stipulation that, we could utilize it and the way it needed to be utilized. I think after kind of sitting down and looking at it, I'm not sure we know exactly where our need totally is, if that's fair to say, Sean. So, I mean, we have a couple of different needs. We need foster families for older kids, and we need foster families for, multiple sibling group placements. And, I don't know that a group home per se would tackle both of those needs together. I don't know that you can necessarily mix all those different populations in the same home. So I think we really probably need to figure out what our most pressing need is and I guess assess whether a group home is the best way to approach meeting that need or not. Does that make sense?
It does, and the reason I brought it up, there's a possibility that if the funding comes through for the new school, you're gonna have 3 facilities. The county's expressed interest in the Bowman facility, but you've got the Harris facility, which is probably the best facility. And, looking 3 years down the road, probably best case scenario, maybe 2 years. That would really be pushing it, but, just trying to figure out some way, possibly if we could pull that off with another agency. It sounds like it's not feasible for Mitchell County to do. That way you give those children a stable environment, you keep them in the county with their friends. And, the school system's going to retain money off of those children. I hate to put it that way, but every child they lose that moves out of the system is about $9,000.
But one of the things that, I've kind of learned from being up there a lot is that, some of our needs, I guess, are the ripple effects from when this county had, what was it, number 90?
Upwards of 96.
97.
So, a lot of those kids are in like, a placement that's long-term that we don't want to disrupt. And so I think we're still feeling, for lack of a better word, the ripple effects of when we had all those kids in custody. And I think moving forward, we fix a lot of the issues that created that problem. And as those kids age out of foster care, I don't know that we'll have quite the significant amount of needs that we have right.
And that's kind of what it is what's our long-term needs versus more immediate needs? Would it more of an emergency shelter type setting that was short-term, federal government will pay up to 14 days if it requires under, support 4E requirement. And so kind of looking at it is, I just learned, I was on a phone call with Bio on Friday, and I just learned that the runaway emergency shelter in Buncombe County is closing. So that's gone. Although we even I had to utilize while I was on the, that call with Yancey County was on that call, and they were saying that that's a loss to them, so there's a gap in our system of care. The question is what exactly is the best solution? Is it more of a long-term group home type situation? If you ask me, okay, if we open a group home today for teenagers, what would that do to the kids, for our kids currently in custody? I could bring 3 back, but it would have to be both male and female. That home would have to serve both male and female to be able to bring those 3 kids back. If it was just female, I'd be able to bring 1 back. If it was male, I could bring 2 back. So there's a lot of dynamics that go into, could Mitchell County in and by itself do it? No, but if we might be opening it up to some of the neighboring counties, where some of the smaller neighboring counties were able to utilize that, could we create it and it be beneficial to then not only us, but then some of our neighboring counties to still be able to be financially feasible. It becomes very expensive. The staffing is going to get you. The awake staff, 24/7, 7 days a week, is costly, and so can you really maintain that and be able to actually, meet the needs as well.
And we looked at other, other ways to meet some of those needs as well. We talked about maybe incentivizing, foster parents who are willing to take in teenagers in some way to attract more of those, if that wouldn't be a more, I guess, cost-effective way to approach that. I think the good news is if we can figure out what we want to do, I fully believe that VIA will be supportive of helping us, get those resources that we need. That's kind of what I gathered from our conversation. So we just need to figure out what it is we need exactly and how to best move forward. Yeah.
And if we have a facility, like I said, if there's something where we can get a facility that you don't have that overhead cost of being having to purchase something, and you're not going in already with that heavy level of debt, then being able to meet your monthly requirements is going to be obviously a lot easier to achieve. So there's a lot of things that I think that we need to have some discussion around that. Because particularly, and so you might be able to do a combination. We'd have to look into the licensing process, but you might be able to do a combination of not only long-term of the group home type system, but also have an emergency system as well as connected to that. So a couple of beds could be emergency beds, and then a couple of beds could be more long-term beds, and be able to do, double duty there, and again, meet a broader need within our community.
This is something that, like I said, it's going to be, the option is there. The county has the first right of refusal when these schools close. And, I think we all need to work together. You guys are professionals. It's just a thought on my process. I thought for me about the process. But, if you're going to say it's not feasible, these are the restrictions, this is why, these are going to be the problems, these are going to be the positives. But I guess, in 2 years, when that school was getting ready to transition and close, if we had a plan and say, okay, we might be able to use this facility to better our community, better serve kids' needs, or you might come back and say, Jeff, man, it's just not this county really wants to work out some good time.
And I think, Jeff, correct me if I'm wrong, Sean, I think really probably our biggest issue is not knowing how much our needs are going to change in the next couple of years. I think that's kind of the most difficult thing at this point, because, again, we're still, the ripples of the 90 plus kids in custody is still rippling. We're still dealing with it in the county.
And I think here again, it's just my thought process on, we're probably looking consistently year in and year out in the 30 kids.
That's my guess.
Mid-30s, low 30s, high 30s. None of us ever want to go back and see the 97, children that were in custody, because, that was not a good situation. It wasn't healthy for anybody.
If Mitchell County ever got to the place where we were interested in a group home like that, would be a bad idea for a feasibility study. And also to look at another facility that is a government funded group. Government funded.
Value's opening several different homes. They've opened one in Cherokee County, and
They've been doing some support with, they'll partner. I think that's the benefit, is being able to bring in someone like Dustin and go, okay, look at it from your critical thinking, your experience. But some of the other group homes that we deal with, Cross North, Black Mountain, there's group homes in our area that, what are some of those challenges that they're facing? Because a lot of them are having to do some serious adjusting to be able to make it in this new climate. And it's a challenge. And so I think it's one of those things. I think if we gear it towards what's going to benefit us, because a lot of those other areas are looking at larger areas, larger communities, and smaller counties are always 30 years of experience, always at the, they never meet our needs. We're just the afterthought. it's always targeted towards the bigger needs. And then if we were able to get to the table, then that's fine. But I think if we really look at where we become the drivers of that plan and go, what's going to benefit us for our county, and possibly our neighboring counties, which are very similar in size and need. And we might be able to really put something together that's pretty creative and sustainable.
And I think we can get partners, as well.
I think it's absolutely worth us our time and energy.
Thank you. I didn't mean to get us stuck out here, but
It's good
I was
discussion.
looking at the numbers.
No, I mean,
It just sort of popped.
we were actually in our debriefing, Monday debriefing, we were talking about placement and the fact that, we have been extremely blessed not to have a kid sleeping in the office, but it's only been by the skin of our teeth and by the grace of God, because we have literally been on that doorstep over the last probably 60 days. We have been on that doorstep multiple times, and FI has come through for us, or our workers just don't stop. They just keep pounding the pavement and they find solutions. But it's been, we have literally been on the doorstep of kids sleeping in our office again, because placements, you can't find placements, and especially if they become teenagers or they have any type of challenging behaviors. It's pretty much you're in a major situation. And I can't think by enough, man. They just don't give up on us, and then they just keep pounding the pavement for us as well. And they've come through with some very difficult placements for us. And
That's why we've been banging that drum so loud to not lose our local LME to a single payer state ran system.
that's my biggest concern is we can call them at 4:30 on a Friday. We're going to get somebody on the phone, and we're going to get someone who's going to work with us. I'm seriously concerned about that in the
If we
future. If
lose
I've got to
them.
call some major company out of wherever, I'm afraid I'm just going to get put on hold.
I believe for the time being, that idea is on hold. So we'll keep banging that rural community drum. Any other questions for Sean?
Thank you.
Good
On the
afternoon.
mechanical end of things. We are 10 months into this fiscal year. Hard to believe it's gone so fast. But we are currently at 75.335% in our expenses for all programs, which is good because at 10 months in, we should be around 83, a little over 83. So we're still tracking at around 8% savings. So that's good news for us as we start winding up the year. Our revenues, as you always know, we're a couple months behind. So the revenues I'm reporting tonight are February, and we're running at 62.23%. At 8 months, we should be at 66.64%. So we're running little 4% under those revenues. But we also know that March revenues will post this month, and they are around 196,000, and that's going to catch us up. So we're starting to see the revenues come in, or I say revenues, but the reimbursements for the payments that we've sent out. So we should see that catch up by the end of this fiscal year. So that's good. I think we're looking real good. As Wendy said, we just underwent our annual fiscal monitoring. That's a huge for my department and the things that I do. Our fiscal monitor at the state level comes in and audits our months, and we send those records ahead of time to him, and he reviews them. This was the first time in several years that he got to be on site due to COVID. So he looked at all of our claiming, and he determines whether we're overclaiming, underclaiming, misclaiming. He looks at our how we code to time, and he could not find anything. So kudos to my team, if I could say that. They've worked really hard. We've watched things really closely this year, make sure we're doing them right, and this is evidence that we're on track, and we're excited about that. We are, when that final report comes out, I think I'll have a little party. So that's good news for us, and I wanted to share that with you. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to help you.
Tammy, what is that line 1960 the retiree insurance, looks like we're about at 100% of that under the expenditures.
Yeah, so that's usually a number that Mavis will give me in budget for. We may have to move some money around, but I believe that's just our portion of paying for DSS. People that have retired over 30 years and we're still paying for
It's
it.
just, I guess that expense probably just keeps growing.
Yeah, as
And-
we.
And, our gas and oil, is that gasoline for our vehicles? Is that what that
Yes,
is?
that's travel.
Yeah.
Again, we're going long distance and you know, the gas prices are up, so, but there is room in the overall budget to move stuff around. I will be submitting a balanced budget amendment before the end of this fiscal year to balance out these individual lines and move where we're underspent.
Any areas that are concerned of you right now, budget wise?
No, I've been looking at this close all day to prep for this meeting and I don't see any areas of concern. Again, any minor overages are gonna come from where we're under. So I think we're looking real good this year.
Any questions for Tammy? We don't have any items for discussion tonight, and we also don't have a need for a closed session. Moving on to board comments, Commissioner Harding.
Good job. Sounds like y'all been busy today. But thank you for your hard work, what you're doing. And really appreciate you guys.
Commissioner Grindstaff. Commissioner Masters. And I'll just say, reiterate what Jeff said. I appreciate the hard work you guys are doing. I know that having 30 kids in custody versus having 90 plus kids in custody is just reflective of good quality work being done. So I know that at the end of the day, those numbers aren't just magical. There's good social work behind those numbers. So I appreciate it. I'll entertain a motion, we adjourn.
So moved.